Hello and welcome to the Beautiful Business Podcast, where today I'm so excited to be joined by John Readman, the founder and CEO of Modo25, a digital marketing agency with a difference, and Ask Bosco, which is a powerful AI-driven analytics and forecasting platform used by hundreds of agencies and brands. Now, John has a background in scaling agencies and a bit of an eye for inefficiencies in client reporting and media planning. So he's now turned his experience into a mission to help agencies grow smarter, not just bigger. In this episode, we're going to explore the challenges and triumphs of transitioning from a pure agency model into building scalable SaaS products. So, whether you're an agency looking to innovate or just simply a little bit curious about the business behind SaaS, I'm looking forward to getting some actionable advice and some thoughtful reflections from somebody who has been there and done it.
If I pick up an iPad or a phone, I just know how to use it. So I don't need training. We have a customer success team and they help our clients with stuff. But I'm like, good customer service is no customer service because the product is so good.
Welcome to the Beautiful Business Podcast from The Wow Company. If you're growing a UK business with a team of 8 to 80 people, you're in the right place. Every fortnight, we share honest conversations with brilliant business minds, exploring the realities of leadership, the challenges that come with growth, and the practical ideas that make a real difference. From purpose to profit, people to process, this is your space for fresh thinking and down-to-earth inspiration. Okay, John, welcome to the podcast. We are so excited to have you here today. Thanks so much for joining.
Well, thanks for asking me to come on. Yeah, super excited to sort of share my story and talk about all things SaaS. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Do you know what, John? I was thinking about this, and I think that there are going to be a lot of people listening who might be in a similar position to me in that they might find it a bit of an overwhelming subject or even a bit intimidating to start with. So I'm really hoping that today I can just try and get you to simplify it for me as much as possible. And yeah, just really get to understand it. But before we do that, I do start the podcast every time with the same question to get to know you a little bit more. Can you tell us something about you that we don't already know and that we wouldn't be able to find out on the internet?
Yes. I once served on the altar for the Pope.
Okay, you've got to tell me more.
My family were very Catholic, and the Pope visited York, and I was an altar boy. I was also on morning worship as well once as an altar boy,
Amazing.
and I went. This is actually a funnier story. And I went to school on the Monday morning, and I obviously wasn't going to tell anybody. And a load of people at school say, "I saw you on morning worship," and I'm like, "What were you doing? Watching morning worship or whatever it?" So
Brilliant.
yeah, no. So I grew up with a quite I wouldn't say strict, but my father was quite into his Catholicism. We actually used to go to church every morning at 6:15 a.m.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So we were like fully into it.
Yeah.
Less so now.
Yeah. Have a little bit of a lie-in now,
Yeah,
do you? Just
yeah.
a little bit
So
longer
I
sleep.
at one point my ambition was to be the Pope, because I thought, well, he gets a whole country. He only has to work 1 day a week. He's got loads of people. He's got his own army. So that seemed like quite a good job.
I mean, absolutely, right? Whilst everyone is there wanting to be a vet or a superhero, there's you going, "I just wanna be the Pope." Like, come on.
Yeah, yeah. I got over that when I sort of found girls. But
Fair enough, fair enough. Say no more. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for sharing. That's actually really interesting. I love that. Okay, and then can you tell us a little bit about your work, your businesses? So you've got like I know you've got Modo25, you've got Ask Bosco. I feel like you've got a million and one things going on. So
the main business is an agency called Modo25, and we're sort of slightly different type of agency. We help brands learn how to do their digital. So we do their digital marketing for them, but then we teach them how to do it and help them go in-house if they want to. And then that's underpinned by some software that we've built, which is called ASK BOSCO, which is an AI analytics platform, which enables brands and agencies to connect all their data up and have this sort of beautiful AI-enabled insight engine experience. And then it also benchmarks people against their competitors and then helps them predict where they should spend their money. So yeah, so that's what we're doing. We're about 36 people, head office in Leeds. We're the best agency to work for according to the best companies thing outside of London. So we're super proud of that. It's all about the people. Any business, whether it's software business or an agency business, it's all about people. Um, so yeah, and I set this business up with the founder of Skyscanner, who I met on a bike ride. So I'm involved in a cycling business. So I've also got a charity cycling business where we're cycling from London to Sydney over 25 years. And I met him on the bike ride probably 14 years ago. We became mates, and then I had this idea to build this thing, and he goes, "You're going to need some money," and I'm like, "Nah, that'll be fine." And he goes, "No, if you're going to build, I suppose this is one thing we're going to get into about building software. No, if you're going to build proper software, you're going to need some money." And he invested, and he was my sort of first sort of co-founder and investor.
Wow, amazing.
So, and the bike ride is called Ride 25 because there's 25 stages to Sydney.
Yeah.
And then when we were setting up the business, we said, well, we've got to link it to the charity because we do the bike ride for this charity that we fund in Uganda called One More Child. And he's like, well, what should we do? And we said, let's name it after one of the kids. So Modo is the name of one of the kids, and 25 links to Ride 25 of how we met. And then we were like, well, we're going to build this technology that gives you advice about the future. And we were like, well, who would Modo ask? Well, she would ask Bosco, who's the guy who runs the orphanage. So that's the sort of how it all came together.
That's incredible. That was actually one of my questions was how did you come up with the names of these? And I love that. That's so amazing. And like what a chance meeting as well, right? Like that's
Oh, no, I was cycling along into this headwind, and I'm more a rugby player than a cyclist. I still don't consider myself a cyclist, but I've cycled from Leeds to Baku. I was going along, I was struggling, hadn't eaten the right food, I was all out, and he just came along, and he's like super fit, and he sort of he goes, "Are you all right, mate?" And I'm like, "No, I'm so not all right." And he said, "Follow me, eat this, keep going," and then we just became friends.
amazing. I love that. The universe has its way, doesn't it? Can we get into the nitty-gritty of SaaS? So let's start at the very, very, very first stage. How do you even identify the right problem to solve? Like there must be millions of problems. So how do you find the one that's worth fixing your attention on?
It's got to be something that you've got first-hand experience or your team's got first-hand
Okay.
experience, because there's a lot of tech gets built for tech's sake that ends up trying to solve a problem that's not really a problem. So people go, "Oh, this is cool." And and also there's hundreds of people on LinkedIn and Facebook going, "Oh, build this, do this. I made £1 billion in 10
Yeah.
minutes." And none of that's true. That's just a load of clickbait. But I think if you think about it's either got to help people save money, make more money, or help them avoid some sort of a risk. So that could be, I don't know, regulatory or something like that. And if it doesn't do one of those three things,
Mhm.
ideally it does more than it does a couple of those, then you shouldn't build it. And uh, yeah, it's got to help either your business, and often these things start, especially in agency land, they start off as an internal tool, and then you think, oh, maybe there's a thing in this, or you build it for one client, and you think, oh, well, maybe we can build.
Yeah.
And our chairman actually started. He spun out a software business from an agency, ended up growing it to be massive and selling it. But he started off like that, sort of building tools for clients, and then thinking, well, hang on, there's something in that, and actually that is more interesting than my agency because that's making me money whilst I'm asleep.
Yeah, nice.
And I think that's the sort of the leap you've got to make
Mhm.
in that.
Amazing. My colleague always has this question that I think couldn't be more appropriate in this situation. So I'd love to ask you. She always says, if the idea is day one, what on earth happens on day two?
Um, so the answer to what happened when I did it is now different to what you could do now because the world's changed. So I can go into why I think now is possibly a much better time to start building software than it was 5, 6 years ago
I mean,
or 10 years ago.
please do. But I'd love to hear
Yeah.
what you did as well, though.
So for us, it was all about organizing. The first thing was, can we actually connect and organize all this data? Right? If we're going to build this thing that does this thing, what are the component parts? So it's literally like a whiteboard or a Miro board or whatever it is. But we were on a flip chart and a whiteboard going, right, how could this thing work? And we all go, oh, well, what if we could do that? And what if we could do that? And is this even, so you've got to sort of, and it is a lot of sort of desk research. Like, is this physically possible?
Mm.
How are people currently solving this problem? And in most businesses, the problem we're solving, they've got 3 or 4 different bits of software. They're doing a lot of manual spreadsheets, Looker Studios, etc. And there's a lot of wasted time, right? So we're trying to help people save time and help their clients make more money. So it's understanding the component parts, and then I suppose the other bit, which people don't often do, is are there other people already doing it, right? And that isn't a bad thing, right? So if other people are already doing it, that means there's a market, and you don't have to necessarily do it 100 times better. You're just going to do it a little bit better, or a little bit faster. But if there's hundreds of people doing it, maybe it's over. It's done. But but I think, and also if nobody's doing it, you're either mad or you're a genius. Right. So that's the sort of, I think you've got to sort of, so there's an element of understanding the component parts of how are we going to put this thing together, but then also is like doing some desk-based market research. And now, compared to 5, 6 years ago, I was sat on Google trawling around, right, how do you do this? How do you do that? Finding stuff, copying and pasting it into a spreadsheet with all these links and this, that, and the other. Whereas now I could just go onto Gemini and say, deep research, tell me how to build one of these, and it'll give you the answer. And then you could even go onto something like Replit or Lovable as a non-technical person and build a prototype. It's just, so it's quite an exciting time if you have an idea about building some software. You could literally do it, potentially have an MVP in a weekend with a few credits with a Lovable or a Replit. It's it's, if people haven't played with those tools, it's mind blowing.
In a weird way, though, does it sort of devalue what can be built? Because, like you say, it can just be built in a weekend.
Well, I think this is then the bit. So I've got some cynical friends going, "Oh, well, I could just build what you've got, and we could just do it." You can build something that sort of works, but is it going to have the right enterprise level security? Could you actually charge money for it?
Mm.
Is it And it's not at the stage, I don't think. I think you might be able to build some interesting internal tools or stuff to play with to prove a point, but having something that's enterprise level that someone's gonna pay thousands of pounds a month for, you need to do it properly.
Yeah, of course.
And you need proper developers, proper engineers, proper security, proper hosting, proper everything, and that's then when that's the bit that then gets expensive,
Yeah.
is recruiting the smart people. But that said, we just did some planning for what do we need in terms of developers next year, and we thought, "Oh, we might need 4 or 5," and I actually maybe think we only need 1 or 2, because they can code faster now with all the tools like Cursor or Copilot or whatever it is they're using just to produce more code. So, or we recruit 5 and we build more software, build better features quicker. So, but no, I think it's a really good time if somebody's got an idea, build an MVP with one of these tools, but then you almost need to unpick that, brief in a proper engineer and a proper product person to build you a proper product.
I mean, it's the same across the board with AI, isn't it? Like, it's a great starting point, and then you need the human input to
Yeah,
make it.
I think it validates ideas or helps
Yeah,
give you more ideas.
yeah,
I don't think yet that we all should worry. And everybody's sort of saying, "Oh, well, AI is not going to take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI is." And I do think that's very valid. I did a talk on AI the other week, and it's like 70% of people are using AI every day in their job. Right, that's interesting. But only 14% of people have had any training. Right, and it's potentially one of the most powerful bits of kit they've got, and there's no training, there's no AI policy, there's no the company doesn't have a way of doing it all. So anyway, but we've got a bit sidetracked into AI, and we're not meant to be doing that. Was it the guy from Microsoft or someone was saying AI is gonna replace SaaS? And I do think over time, some of the legacy big SaaS companies like the Salesforces and the HubSpots and all those, I think they might get challenged by people who come up with better products quicker, faster, because they're so big they can't adjust now. Um, but yeah, does that answer your question about where to start? And I sort of rambled off in a different direction.
definitely. And I guess you've given a couple of examples, but what do you think are early signs that what you've got on your hand is worth scaling worth putting?
Well, I think the other thing, and we didn't do this, and this is like a lesson learned the hard way. We're like, well, we know what the problem is because we've been running agencies and we've got people, and we said we know exactly what to build. And what we should have done a bit more of is sort of crowdsourced what customers actually want.
Aye.
Right. So we took what we thought they wanted based on what we thought as an agency, and we only knew that that's what we used to give them, and we didn't, and we assumed what we used to give them they liked.
Yeah.
Right. We didn't take a step back and go, well, why don't we speak to customers and find out actually what do they really want? How would they use it? So we're in the process of rebuilding a specific part of ASK BOSCO to have a native Shopify app. So inside Shopify, you just press a button and you can have all your data inside ASK BOSCO. You can just ask it questions. And now we're just talking to anybody and everybody we can who's got a Shopify e-commerce store. It's like, what frustrates you about your Shopify dashboards? What would you want to know? What are the key KPIs? What's going to make your day better? So I think talk to potential customers and even get them on an early beta or get them to agree to test it, and in return they get it for free or something. And we didn't do enough of that.
I see. Okay. And that is literally just reaching out to your ideal client, I guess, right? Or the
Yeah,
ideal.
and just say, look, we've got this idea. We're thinking of doing, and we did it. We've done it with a few agencies recently. We said, look, there's two types of agencies who want to use ASK BOSCO. There's those who just want a finished product out of the box, and it just works. Or there's those sort of ambitious, forward-thinking agencies who want to go on a bit of a journey and have the best thing first. And you've got to decide which one do you want to be, because we're sort of here and we're still evolving the product all the time. Do you want to come on the journey, or do you just want something that's finished? And also, I think software's never finished.
Well, yeah, ever evolving, right? But how do you make that decision then, John? Like, how do you decide which avenue to go down?
What do you mean
Like,
with the
if someone
software?
wants the finished product or if someone wants something that's a bit more open, like, how do you, as the person that's, like, creating this, go, "Right, I've got all of this valuable feedback, but maybe some mixed opinions." Like,
Well, also, I think the other thing where, again, we made a bit of a mistake here is we started thinking, "Oh, well, we'll start selling it when we get to the end and it's finished."
okay.
Right, well, there's bits you can maybe sell to people along the journey because it's gonna solve half the problem, or you can get people and then you can get feedback and you can iterate and you can improve the product as you go. Whereas we're like, "Oh, well, we're gonna build, and then we're gonna start selling it." Whereas actually what you can do is get people who can come on the journey with you, um, and whether that's your ideal client. And also you can just get some feedback on the idea,
Mhm.
because people might go, "Well, no, that's not a very good idea. I don't get it. Why would I pay you?" And then you can start understanding, well, how much would you pay?
Yeah.
What would that be worth to you? And there's loads of even like online survey tools or like qualitative research things you can do now to get quite a significant amount of research, to validate that there is a market, there is an opportunity. Yeah, and you're never finished,
No.
right? And we've got the dilemma with our software guys at the moment. We're like, we actually need to plan in time every month for the software team for like fixing stuff or building new features or sorting out client stuff, but we don't know what it is yet. But so we've got to actually factor in all that extra time,
Yeah.
and nobody really wants to be on the team that's just fixing stuff. They all want to be building new stuff.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? This is one of the questions that I was gonna ask you is, like, how do you stay ahead of the game? So how can you balance, like, what's needed right now versus where you want to be in the future potentially, which you don't know what you don't know, right?
Um,
Or do you know sometimes?
my team will probably say I'm not short on ideas. That's one of my biggest. There's a John not to do list in our business. John's ideas that we're definitely not doing. Um, So, yeah, we don't. I think if you're excited about building a product, you won't be short of ideas. And most agency owners, I imagine, have got loads of ideas because
Mhm,
that's what it
mhm.
takes to be that sort of person. But they're probably just a bit nervous about, well, I don't know. I don't have the technical skills to make this happen. So I'm a commercial guy, but I was fortunate that in my previous agency, we did build we built websites, but that's technically software. And one of our guys, we spun up a Google CSS platform, and one of our developers who built websites worked out how to do that and worked out we could build software. So, and then we started from there. And yeah, so I think you need a friendly technical person who can work with you and all the AI tools to validate it and bring your vision to life. But yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
It does. It does. There's so much to unpack. Okay, so the other thing as well is that you, for example, you've got Modo 25, you've got Ask Bosco. How do you separate them? How do you like not have resource, time, and conflict?
So yeah, that's a really good question. So we actually have, and I did this from the beginning, and I would recommend people do this. So we have dedicated people who are just Ask Bosco, and then we have dedicated people who are just Modo 25.
Okay.
And they've got different email addresses, they've got different LinkedIn profiles. They are the same company. The way I have to describe it close is like Modo 25 is like Google, and Ask Bosco is like Gmail. Uh,
Okay, that's helpful.
yeah, right. Yeah. So that's the product and that's the business. But it's and then we have sort of like central, so finance, me, Abby, who's like the chief of staff, is COO. We're like central, and then you've got somebody who heads up the agency, and then you've got a CTO, a chief product officer, and a VP of engineering who head up the software side of it. I think the interesting thing is our internal team, because they've been playing with this software that didn't work for ages, then it does work, then it doesn't work. I think sometimes they've got a bit of PTSD, and they're like, "Oh, you've released another bit of thing," and they're just like, they're not actually our paying customers get really excited about it, and they're like, "What? This thing actually works now? Amazing!" Yeah, so I think it's having your own internal clients great, but they also get a bit worn down by it because
Yeah.
they're like, constant. Well, it didn't work last time I tested, but that feedback is so important and getting that feedback loop from people. But we do it, and I actually run two separate P&Ls. I have one overall business plan, which is then split, and then we allocate the costs. We split the costs on everything. So I've got this ridiculous model and spreadsheet that does all that. And then I suppose the idea in the future is the software goes up massively scalable. At the moment, it's not. It's costing us money to build the software, even though we've got paying customers. And I think that's maybe a scary bit for an agency. So you can set up an agency, win some clients, and be profitable for day one. Whereas with the software, you'll be paying clever, expensive people for several months before you've got anything to sell. Right. So it's that, and that's a big investment and an unknown. So you can either use your war chest you've got built up from being an agency to do that, or you might need to get some investment, or you might need to invest some of your own money back into the business to fund it.
That must be quite scary, right?
Yeah, it's and it could take months, years before it actually. So it'll go lose, 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 lose. But then when it starts going, it'll go up a lot quicker.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So if we were to win a new client on the agency side of things, we need more people, right? Because it's a people, you're selling people's time. Whereas if we go and sign up 10 clients in Ask Bosco tomorrow, it's just send them a username and password.
Yeah, done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that must be so um as that's growing then, like, how long how long do you start to like, how long do you wait before you start to think,
Well, I think you need to model it out. You really do need to model it out and work out at what point do we. So the question there is what point do you just turn it off and give up?
yeah,
Or
exactly, that's
is
what I
it,
mean.
do you just keep flogging a dead horse?
Yeah,
And we had the first version of this, and it didn't work. And we'd spent a long time and a lot of money with super clever people.
yeah,
It just wasn't good enough. But we did believe in what we were doing and the problem we're trying to fix. And we knew, and we had a lot of cheerleaders, both from brands and agencies, said, we want that thing when you finish building it. So we kept going. But I think a lot of people um, end up running out of money or energy, or because it's just hard.
yeah, absolutely, motivation.
But it's easier now than it was.
Yes.
So people shouldn't be scared. It's the best time. If there's a time to go and play with some ideas, you could validate your idea a lot quickly. So as a non-technical founder, you could validate an idea to decide, right, do I actually need to get technical people? Whereas I had to go and recruit a CTO. Fortunately, I had one from my previous business, and I think he said, I'll come with you. An expensive salary that's not a fee generating salary.
Yeah, of course, and I guess that kinda plays into what you were talking about earlier about, like, not waiting until you've got an end product before you start selling bits of it, because that can help, I guess, with that
Oh, no, it helps with the absolutely help get some income from it or do some projects. So can you do a paid project which involves bits of the tech or whatever it is you're building, so you can actually do the work, get paid for the work whilst building the thing, whatever your thing is. That's quite a smart way to do it, and a lot of agencies have spun out products by doing that.
How important is it when it comes to kind of intellectual property and owning this stuff? Like, do you have to do this in stages or do you not own
Yeah,
it
and
until the
this
end?
is really interesting, and, by the time this goes out, this will be public knowledge, so that you're getting an exclusive here, Chloe,
Thank you so
right?
much.
So we've got our product to a certain point. I got some investment from my friend at Skyscanner and a few other interesting angel investors, like the CEO of Skybet and a few other people. In fact, everybody who invests in my business, I think I met on the bike or skiing. But so that's a separate conversation around networking and actually the parable of that. But we've just closed some funding from a venture capital company, um, like a lot, 4 and a bit million pounds, because they want to help us grow faster. But that means we can recruit better developers. That means we can recruit more salespeople. We can do more marketing. We can build the brand. So, and it's validation in what we built is right. We think that we get the market. We think there's a thing here. We think you can turn this into a proper software company. And it's not just an agency who's spun out a little bit of tech on the side. So that's super exciting, and the press for that will be out by the time this goes out.
Yeah.
So
Can we
it
just take a
but
minute?
that you
Like,
have an exclusive.
congratulations. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
So but that's quite scary now because
Yeah.
it it can't not work. We've
Yeah.
got to give these people a return on their money, and they've got quite high expectations of where we're going. So and now I've got a boss technically,
Yeah. So how does that
so that's
feel? Like,
weird.
what does that act in practice, what does that actually feel like for you, John?
It only happened last week. I don't know.
He's still not registered.
Um,
Wow.
it's quite reassuring to know that we've got enough money in the bank to keep going for a long time and we can now afford to make decisions to recruit people with years of experience of building stuff like this, or we can afford to go and sponsor an event that we could never dreamed of sponsoring before, or go and have a stand at something and have a bigger stand than SEMrush or whatever. So that sort of stuff.
Amazing. And I'm guessing the rest of the team know?
The company knows, yeah, everybody knows. Yeah, yeah. So we told them last Monday.
And how did it go down? Everyone
Yeah,
excited?
it's exactly. Well, I'm a big believer in being transparent about everything. Sometimes too, I'm from Yorkshire, and I'm just what you see is what you get. So they've known about the whole thing all the way through the process, which a lot of people thought was, yeah, but what if it doesn't happen?
Yeah,
How are they going to? Because you're telling them you need this money to grow faster, and da 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 da. And what if you don't get it?
yeah. But I'm guessing you managed those expectations as you went, right?
Yeah, and also I was like, we're not gonna we're gonna get this. You've got to focus on plan A. So, but yeah, no, so the team have been on the whole journey with me, which actually I think made it easier because they were really excited about it as well. And all my guys, and again, this is unusual. Everybody in the business I gave them shares, everybody in the company, before we did this. So I think a lot of people build their agency at some point, they wanna sell it, and they wanna make a load of money for themselves, and that's very admirable and noble and this, that, and the other. Uh, I was very fortunate years ago to work for a software company, and I suppose this was where it all came from for me, is where we all got given shares just for doing our job, and then you had the opportunity to buy some more, and then they sold that business to Experian, and we all made some money, like quite good money, and it inspired me. Software, make money whilst you're asleep. I sort of got into the agency thing by accident, and then if you take everybody on the journey, everybody's excited if or when you get to that event. Whereas if I suddenly come around in 5 years' time and go, "Oh, I'm gonna sell Ask Bosco Motor 25 to Shopify, excellent, I'm gonna sail off into the sunset," and they're like, "Well, what do we get?" And hopefully members of the team will get enough for an amazing holiday or a car or something, and then they're all excited, and then they'll have a really exciting job or something that's meaningful, as well as an exciting job in a bigger company or something. So I think as a business owner, um, it's all about people, right? We talked about a bit about that before, and whether that's the software or the agency, business is about people, and if you can help inspire them a little bit. But I still don't think any of them get it. Some of them do. And it's like, well, and I've just given my shares to them. There you go, have some of my shares. And I don't, and I've tried to model it out and go, well, it could be this. You might get this.
That's so interesting, isn't it? We talk a lot at WOW about kind of profit culture and trying to get the team, engaged with that and what it looks like for them, as like just them as individuals, generationally and just, personally as well.
But I think you've got to keep reiterating and talking about it. And also, for some of our guys, it's their first ever job. So they think this is completely normal. If you think your bit of SaaS is going to be a
Yeah.
thing, you do need to then sort of almost take a step back and go, right, how's this going to work? And who's going to buy it? How many are we going to sell a month? How are they going to do it? And then it's also about making sure your customers
Mm.
stay, right? It's like, how many apps have we all subscribed to? And then you're like, oh, it's rubbish, delete. So it's about making sure that it's sticky, it's solving a problem
Mhm.
that's an
Yeah.
ongoing problem. Because I know I've had friends who've built amazing bits of tech and it fixes the problem, and then the
Mhm.
problem's
And
fixed.
then what?
And it's like, is it still a problem? And because the risk is you sell it once to them and then they cancel or you get churn. And then you've also got to think about, right, is it so good that they can just learn how to use it? I've got this thing with my designers and developers is like, if I pick up an iPad or a phone, I just know how to use it. So I don't need training. We need to build up a product that is so good that you don't need training. Or it's like we have a customer success team and they help our clients with stuff. But I'm like, good customer service is no customer service because the product is so good. And it's then about, and also you need to then get obsessed about your churn numbers, right? So everybody's like, "Oh god, new business, new business, new business." But if you've got the coming in the top of it, you've got a leaky bucket, it's a bit, and people might churn quicker if it's just a rolling monthly contract that someone signed up for online. And again, that's good feedback on the software, and you can do stuff about that, but really get into the numbers, build a model, really understand what your metrics and levers are.
Like, another thing that I guess when we were talking about the team just popped into my head is how what is the structure difference between, kind of a service-based agency and then your kind of SaaS product agency? Like, how is structurally, how does it work? Is it the same role? Right.
Yeah, so, well, I suppose everybody on the SaaS side of the business is technically a cost, and they're non-billable people, right? So if you're an agency person, you kinda get your head around that. It's like, well, hang on, we just have to keep paying them, and we haven't got any clients that are paying their wages, and we're not making a margin, we're not making a dough. Hang on, how's that work? And we built the first product with a CTO, a couple of data guys, and 1 developer. Right, and we got to, like, 300 customers, with just like, a handful of people, um, so it is doable, and then you've gotta decide, right, do we invest more money and do we start doing it properly? So, in terms of structure, you have a senior person who owns the so I actually, on my LinkedIn, I call myself like product owner because I think if it's your idea and you're passionate and excited about it, you've still got to be in those meetings where you're deciding what's getting, and some things happen, like somebody releases a new feature in the product and I've not seen it before. And half of me is, like, excited because it's quite cool, but the other thing's like, you shouldn't be doing that because we've got a process and having and if you've been used to being an agency, which is, like, spinning loads of plates and doing what the client wants, "Right, we'll just get that done, we'll sort it out by Monday morning." You've almost got to slow down, be super organized, super structured, and have a process and a plan, especially if people are paying you to log in, and it needs to work. So I'm technically still I go to all the development meetings, I help prioritize all the stuff, and then we've got clever people who then take those ideas, map them out into how long is that gonna take us to do? When are we gonna start it? When and we do like 2-week sprints. So every 2 weeks, there's a new bit of functionality gets released. Uber release 4 or 5 bits of new functionality a day. Again, the other thing about this, there's loads of content out there where you can learn about this. In fact, my chairman, David Hart, he wrote a book called Productize, which I'd highly recommend, which is written for agency founders who want to build a product. And it just talks all about what we're talking about today, about the pros, the cons, the things you've got to think about. And when not to give up and when to hold firm or when to give up if it doesn't work, right? And he I think his first 4 or 5 products just didn't work, and it's like on his 6th, it then went gangbusters. And, yeah, well, like, I think his part of his thinking, which he talks about in his book, he was like, someone approached him to buy his agency, and he was one of 3 founders, and they sort of did the maths, and he was like, "Well, that's exciting. I'll have enough to pay off my mortgage, go on a few nice holidays, but then I've got to go back to work the next day." And it's like, actually, whereas with software, the valuation of a subscription-based thing gets valued differently. And I think if you are excited about that and you want to build something valuable for the future, it could be a really good opportunity for you. But with the right research and the right people. So structure-wise, it's quite flat and we're very hands-on. And actually our development team are based in Prague and we're in Leeds. So there's a lot of this, but we get them over here and we go over there. But there's only, like, as I said, a handful of them.
Interesting. And when it comes to funding, like I say, in the right place at the right time for the universe to bump into Skyscanner, someone who can fund you this incredible investment. Do you have any kind of practical
A
tips for?
very good friend of mine who was head of retail at KPMG, I was like, so we very quickly spent that first bit of investment. Even though the agency's always been profitable, because we run 2 different P&Ls, but we spent, so we've got, like, one of our guys is, like, double PhD data scientist, and they're not cheap people, right? And if you want to attract those super smart people, you've got to pay good money. So anyway, we quickly ran out of the first investment and we had to go raise some more money. And I said to a very good friend of mine, who was the head of retail at KPMG at the time, and I phoned him up and I said, Don, and he won't mind me sharing this. I said, Don, I'm thinking of raising some money. And he goes, I'm not giving you any money, John. And I said, no. I'm thinking of raising some money. What should we do? And he goes, right, the first thing you do is you don't ask for money. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, you ask for advice. Right, so you ask for advice from people who you know well, who you know have got some money, who do this sort of thing. So I thought, right, okay, that's quite interesting. And then the next bit he said, ask a customer of your agency to invest. And I'm like, how do I do that? I'm like on the QBR and I'm like, oh, by the way, would you like to invest in my crazy software idea I've got? And actually, the client won't mind me saying this because it's all in the public domain. So Pavers Shoes is one of our agency clients, and it's a family-run business. So Stuart Paver is the chairman, and then his son, Jason, runs the business. And I was genuinely having a catch-up with Jason about, I don't know, the latest SEO thing or whatever. And I goes, "Oh, we're building this tech thing." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, that's really interesting." And I said, "Oh, well, we're just thinking," and he stopped me. He goes, "If you're raising money, we're in."
Oh my goodness. I mean,
And I was like, "Oh." So I texted Abby, who's like she's like COO. And I said, "Jason's like wants to invest like straight away." So that was really exciting, but also gives you confidence in what you're doing. If a client invests and it gives you credibility anyway. So he personally invested, his father, Stuart, personally invested. And then later, as we went further down the line, like, really love what you're doing. Tech's amazing. Can we invest more as a company? So that I is interesting, but the other bit was I had conversations with probably 7 or 8 people who I knew invested, and I just said, "Oh, I'm thinking of raising some money. Have you got any advice?" I had no deck, 'cause that's the other thing. Everybody says, "Oh, you've got to have a deck. You got to send it to loads of
yeah.
people." I've never sent a deck to anybody. If someone wants to see any deck or information, I'll have a call with them. Or I'll and I've only and I've suppose over my life, I've always had a lot of networking, always done a lot of fun stuff, always I've gone to an event not necessarily knowing what I'm gonna get out of it, and I think that now helps having been around 20 odd years. But, yeah, so in summary, ask a customer to invest, ask, um, uh, for advice, not for
Yeah.
money, and a lot of the people I ask for advice started the call going, "All right, well, I'm not gonna invest, but I'm interested. I'll give you some advice." And at the end of the call, they go, "Oh, I'll put some money in."
Yeah. Amazing.
Right? So that is a top tip. And then the other thing to understand, there is a load of government support about people building sort of new businesses, new tech. So, and again, there may be an argument if you're going to do this to maybe set it up as a separate limited business if you've been running your agency a long time, because you can get things called SEIS and EIS, which means if someone invests and then it doesn't work out, they can get up to half their money back as a tax relief. So if somebody invests 50 grand and it goes pop, they don't lose their whole 50 grand because they can get knocked off their tax bill.
Nice. Awesome.
So there's loads of other stuff around that. There is loads of innovation grants and other things you can get. So I would also think about, right, what does my local government, local council, do they do anything about innovation? What does the central government do? A lot of paperwork, a lot of effort, but we got nearly £1 million from the government as a innovation thing. So it's and they're hard to get, but it also validates your idea. Which then, if the government's validated your idea, then it's easier to get money from other people.
Oh, brilliant. And I feel like that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that could be another Gemini task.
It could probably help you fill it in. You could probably upload the form to Notebook ML and say, right, here's the template, here's the research from Gemini, put the two together and fill it
Yeah.
in and send me the result.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My gosh. You're there like back in my day.
Yeah. When I was a lad, I had to work 9 days a week. Yeah.
Just before we move into some like kind of personal reflections for you, John, I'm just intrigued by the mindset between the two businesses. Like, do you find it difficult to kind of toggle?
Well, I suppose I'm unusual because I came from software and then ended up in agency. In agencies, I've been trying to think, well, what can we build? What can
Yeah.
we do? We need to, and every agency business I'm involved with, we've built something and we've had something at, at different levels. So I suppose I'm just wired that way to try and do
Mhm.
that and wanted to do that.
So do you
Um,
find it's the opposite way then? Do you find it difficult to toggle back?
Well, I suppose what I've done is that Dan, who is basically runs the agency, he's fully empowered to run the agency. So Dan used to work with me at Search Laboratory when we scaled Search Laboratory. He was one of our first guys we sent out when we launched Search Laboratory into America. And yeah, Dan's just great. He started as a grad at Search Laboratory, and then I messaged him, and he goes, "Oh no, I'm freelance now. I'm never going back into an agency." And I'm like, "Well, can you just help me out with a bit of freelance PPC whilst we get going?" And now he runs the whole agency, and he's empowered, and then he's got like head of paid, head of optimization, and CRO, and then there's a whole team structure. I do get involved with client pitches if I need to, but there's a whole thing there that almost runs itself,
Yeah.
and then probably 80% of my focus is on scaling the software side now, especially now we've got the investment because that's where the pressure is.
Yeah. So it all basically comes back to having the right people around you, right? To be able to.
Yeah. Oh, no, and I think that's it. All business is like, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah, right. I love that
Yeah,
saying.
it's one of those. It's like, I just wanna recruit loads of super smart people who ask me hard questions and then empower them to get on and do it.
Definitely. Okay, so before we completely wrap up, a couple of quick fire reflection questions for you then. If you were to do it all again, and I'm going to take tech out of this, let's remove Gemini from this option. If you were to do it all again, what would you do differently?
I'd have gone out and spoken to more customers first and got more ideas from them rather than me thinking and my team thinking we've got the big idea, we know what we're doing. So I'd have validated that a little bit earlier. Um, I would probably started selling it properly earlier. Um, or doing some sort of deals around like getting people to play with it and test it and things. We built things the wrong way. We built things in the wrong code. We built stuff that didn't work. There's loads, but the main thing I'd say is, um, and I suppose would I do it again? Absolutely. Would it be easier to do it today versus 4 years? Because I was talking about AI 4.5 years ago. Everybody thought I was mental. So we actually called it predictive analytics because everybody was scared. All right. And we've been building these massive sort of algorithmic models to do all the data crunching because actually generative AI isn't yet very good at data. It's very good at words and pictures and all this sort of stuff. But you ask it to do some data analysis, it confidently gets it wrong a lot of the time. It just gives you the wrong answer. So if anybody is doing that now, just be careful. It's good at summarizing numbers if the numbers are right, but it's not very good at doing complex calculations yet. I think it will get there. Um, but yeah, so it would be different now, but yeah, we'd definitely do it again.
Yeah, love
Um,
that. And what has been your most unexpected or biggest challenge or even surprise? It can be good or bad. And how
well, I suppose, um, so when we first set this business up, I thought, right, the way the world's going, and this is a bit controversial based on who the people probably listen to this is, I think the agency model is probably gonna die in the next 5 years was my thinking, having been in 2 different agencies that we'd sold. And I'm like, "The way it's going, in-housing, tech, AI, we're gonna build this thing that clients are gonna buy, and then they won't need an agency." And that was like my vision. And I was like, "That's gonna be a thing." It's not a thing, by the way. It's just not. Agencies are fine. Um, and people always want to have someone for strategy, ideas, bounce stuff off. They also want somebody to blame, right? So that's where part of what the agency's there for is. I spoke to the marketing director of a big travel company, and he said, "We're never going to go fully in house." He goes, "Because if everything's in house, it's my fault." He goes, "If I've got an agency, I can sack the agency. I probably sack 3 agencies before I get sacked." So, anyway, so that was my initial vision. We were gonna sell it to brands, and actually what started happening is brands started buying it. They started asking their agencies to use it, and then agencies were like, "Well, can we have that for all our other clients? Because it was gonna save us loads of time." And I thought we were building a product to help clients arbitrage between Google and Facebook, because Facebook's never gonna tell you to spend more money on Google, and Google's never gonna tell you to spend, and that's what I thought we were building. Actually, we built a time-saving machine for agencies, which I never thought we'd be selling software to agencies. So some of the biggest independent agencies in the UK use it, and I never thought that would be a thing. And I just yeah, so I suppose, and it's not being scared to change your message and pivot when you find your thing. Um, and then I suppose the other thing is, don't be surprised when it actually works. Because I'd always been saying to the team, "Right, have we built this to scale?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course we have." And I goes, "Well, what if I get an agency now that's got 300 clients? We press the button, is it gonna work?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course it'll work." And I'm like, "But we've only," and at the time, we only had 20 odd clients. Anyway, we signed up an agency who did have 300 plus clients. And I said, "We've got the agency, they want to onboard 300 clients, and they want to do it next week." And we didn't know if it was gonna work. So we said, "Well, we'll put 50 in, and then we'll put 75 in, and then we'll do," and then and by the we did it over a weekend, and
it worked amazing.
yeah, yeah, but you've got to go and out there and say, "Yeah, of course it'll work," and then you're like, "Well, will it?" Whereas with people, you can put the jazz hands in and you know you'll find something, whereas when you press the button, it either works or it doesn't work.
Wow, that must be, yeah, a million times more scary, but a million times more rewarding at the same time, right?
Yeah, no, it is, and also when it doesn't work, it's even more frustrating because sometimes you can't work out why it's not working, and that's quite stressful. Whereas when a client services director just doesn't send the email on time or doesn't do whatever, you can normally fix it quite
Of
quickly.
course. Okay. And one final question or one final reflection question for you. What advice would you give potentially your earlier self, I guess, to start building something who might be just sort of stuck at the idea stage?
Yeah, I suppose I do think, well, I would half of what's enabled me to do this is because of my experience and network, but half of me is thinking, "I wish I'd done this 20 years ago." Um, so I think for me is, I suppose some of the reflection of what I've learned is, don't underestimate the power of your network, and people will want to help you and ask the question and call in the favors and ask for help and support. Because if you ask nicely, most people will say yes.
Wonderful advice. I love that. And final question then, we ask everybody this on the podcast, and I can't wait to hear your answer. What does beautiful business mean to you?
Beauty, it's a happy team. And happy team, you can measure it as well. So a happy team could be measured on days sick. It could be measured on, like, are they recommending their friends to come and work here? Have they got a best friend at work? Have they met their partner at work? Have they had a baby because they met someone at work? So happy team. If you have a happy team, they'll build happy products, then they'll have happy customers, or they'll do happy work. So for me, it's about the team and the energy.
I love that. I really, really love that. And right at the beginning, I said, like, please just make this as simple as possible. And I've got to say a massive thank you because I feel like I've learnt loads today and I haven't been too lost along the way. So hopefully that will have translated to our listeners as well. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me on. Yeah. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been great.
Thanks, John. Thank you for listening to the Beautiful Business Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, then please remember to subscribe and leave us a review. For more advice and practical tips on what it's really like to build a beautiful business, visit our content hub at wowco.uk/hub or check out the link in the show notes.